Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Today we have Bruce Collins, Director of Product Management, speaking about ePMP MicroPOP, low-cost subscriber modules, and the latest ePMP software features. Bruce, feel free to take things from here.
All right, great. Thanks, Olivia, and thanks everybody for joining today. We're, as Olivia mentioned, I'm going to give you some updates on a couple new products in the ePMP portfolio, and then also some updates on the upcoming software releases. This is being recorded and will be posted on the community, so if you miss something, you can always go back and review it. Also, there will be plenty of time here for questions. If you have a question about either the topics I'm covering or anything related to ePMP, feel free to post it in the chat window on the webinar interface, and then uh, we'll take those questions as they come in and have plenty of time at the end. So with that being said, let's get started. The agenda for today is I do want to kind of do a refresh for those of you that are new to ePMP or new to Cambium networks. Give you a little summary of the ePMP 3000 and what makes it different in the marketplace and why we are seeing so many WISPs and network operators have success with the ePMP 3000. And we'll talk about 3 new products, 2 from Cambium, 1 from one of our third-party suppliers or third-party ecosystem partners. And then I'll give you a sneak preview of a product that we'll be launching here in a few months, but I wanted you to be aware of it and then kind of show you how it all fits together in uh, options for how you might expand your network. So we're starting to build out the portfolio pretty broadly, and I want to make sure that everyone understands the different options you have in expanding the network. And then I'll give you a quick look at the 4.5 software, which is in beta now, and we expect to have that released here in the next, probably about the next 3 weeks. So at a glance, I always like to start with this slide because it's kind of in a one-page view of what does the ePMP 3000 bring. It's always important to remember the ePMP 3000 is 802.11 AC Wave 2. That gives us 5 times the performance of the traditional 11N type products. And that really comes from 3 areas in sort of order of importance. The 4x4 MU-MIMO is absolutely the most important piece of this. With MU-MIMO and the 4x4 sector antenna that you see there, the ePMP 3000 can talk to 2 subscriber modules at precisely the same time. So effectively doubles the capacity up to about 1.2 gigabit per second as the headline data rate for the ePMP 3K. So always important to think in terms when we go through these different products. Some of them support the 4x4 MU-MIMO and some of them are 2x2. It's important to keep in mind that it's the MU-MIMO that really gives you that high capacity. Of course, wider channels comes available with 11AC. You can do 40 and 80 megahertz channels, but that is just sort of nice to have in areas where you can, noise floor will support it, but I would say the vast majority of our customers are using 40 megahertz channels or 20 megahertz channels. And then the higher modulation piece of 11AC Wave 2 is also important. That's the 256 QAM modulations. Even if you can only get a handful of your subscribers to achieve that, you're going to see the overall sector improve and the performance improve. So that's on performance but the other thing that comes with the 3000 is bringing along the features and capabilities that were introduced with the ePMP 2000 and 1000. So we bring along things like uplink beam steering, hardware-based filtering to support rejection of adjacent channel noise, and then synchronization, which is kind of a key aspect of the ePMP portfolio and allows us to scale up to much larger sectors than any of the competition that's out there. So being able to do 40, 60, 80, even more than 100 subscribers on a single sector is certainly feasible, and we see examples of that every day, talked about in our community and when we talk with customers. So 3000 brings along all of that performance and history as we have a 3rd generation product here. It's also important the 3000 does what we call investment protection. And this really comes from both forwards and backwards compatibility. Means that the ePMP 3000 can talk to a 11N subscriber module. It can also talk to a 11AC Wave 2 subscriber module. So if you have an existing network of ePMP and you want to upgrade the access point first, you can do that. And all of those Force 180s, Force 200s will continue to talk to the ePMP 3000. If on the other hand, you have a whole network of ePMP 2000 access points and subscriber modules, and you're happy with the performance, but you're starting to add more subscriber modules, you can certainly add Force 300 subscriber modules, and they will interoperate with the ePMP 2000 through what we call forward compatibility. So this allows you to decide what's best for your network, what's best for your return on investment and approach to expansion. You can decide, do I want to upgrade the access points first, or do I want to upgrade the subscriber modules first? Gives you a nice, elegant, and smooth migration path. Again, that's unique to the ePMP 3000. And then it's also worth mentioning that all the ePMP hardware, all the products that I'll talk about today have a 3-year standard warranty, and you can get support directly from Cambium or from the channel partner that you purchase the equipment from. So important to it's an important peace of mind. You buy this hardware, you put it up, you know that it's backed by Cambium for 3 years. Any kind of issue you might run into with the hardware. So that is 3000 at a glance. Let me show a little bit more detail on that and why Cambium has really placed considerable investments in MU-MIMO. You see MU-MIMO in the ePMP 3000. You also see the MU-MIMO, massive MU-MIMO capability in the PMP 450M product, which is also from Cambium. So MU-MIMO, and this chart will attempt to really illustrate the value of MU-MIMO versus the traditional approach that we've taken up till now, which is to continue to just increase the modulation that's used with each, so that you can jam more bits per hertz into a particular piece of spectrum. What we've gone with MU-MIMO is being able to split that signal and talk to more than one subscriber at the same time. So in a traditional approach, if I was going to try to deliver 500 megabits per second, and I could do that with a Gen 1 or a 802.11ac Wave 1 product, I'd run 64 QAM, and I would need 27 dB signal noise ratio. That should be dB rather than dBi. And similarly, if I just want to do that with the modulation, with MU-MIMO, I can get away with just 16 QAM modulation, which is only requires 21 dB of signal to noise ratio. So what that means is I can achieve that capacity with a higher noise floor. I can achieve that capacity with smaller antennas, and I can achieve that capacity over longer distance because I don't need as much signal to the noise floor. Now, if I want to go to a gigabit per second, that's really becomes not feasible with 802.11ac Wave 1. You need to be on Wave 2, which is what we have with the 3000. With products like Ubiquiti's LTU that do not support MU-MIMO but are able to go to high modulations, they can achieve that gigabit per second, but it requires 4096 QAM, which requires really a typically unachievable 44 dB signal to noise ratio. So it's really unlikely that you're going to find real world situations with that kind of noise signal to noise ratio. But when you look at the ePMP 3000, it's quite achievable with a 64 QAM modulation running in MU-MIMO. Again, I only need 27 dB of signal to noise ratio, and I can achieve that. So this is really an attempt to illustrate why we see that MU-MIMO is the technology to bet on. You'll continue to see that investment from Cambium Networks in MU-MIMO, and that will include both our ePMP 3000 AC product as we look forward to the future with 11AX, and of course already widely deployed with the PMP 450M. Again, MU-MIMO gives you longer distances, more throughput, and smaller antennas. So all good things if you're a WISP. Now, the evolution of ePMP started with ePMP 1000 several years ago. That was really groundbreaking because it solved the issue of synchronization in an 11N platform, provided that synchronization which lets you scale up to large number of subscribers in a particular sector. Then a couple years ago, we came out with the ePMP 2000 that introduced the uplink beam steering. It introduced the hardware-based dynamic filtering and really addressed the issue of external interference. So now you have self-interference addressed, you have external interference at least mitigated with the 2000. And then about a year or so ago, we introduced the ePMP 3000, and that really upped the capacity with what we've been talking about by bringing the 4x4 MU-MIMO, higher processing power, and brings along the features I mentioned before. And most importantly, it brings along that compatibility and easy migration from 11N to 11N with beam steering to 11AC Wave 2. And then you see in the future there are products built on the Y6 or 802.11ax platform. And that same compatibility will be there moving forward from today's ePMP 3000 and Force 300 subscriber modules. That same compatibility will be there when we migrate to 11ax products in the future. So nice smooth migration path. If you're on the ePMP platform today, you have that comfort going forward, and you can make those investments feeling confident that you have a migration path and investment is protected. So that is kind of the real quick rundown on ePMP platform itself. Let me go into some of the new products. We're introduced recently, or are introducing a Force 300 13L. This should be available from your channel partners around the end of this month. They started shipping back in December, and we believe that your channel partners should have them in their hands in the next sort of 2 to 3 weeks. More important thing to note about the Force 300 13L is that it is targeting very ARPU sensitive or low cost WISP environments. So this is our lowest priced 802.11ac subscriber module. It is really targeted to short range, low cost options. So if the real benefit that I see here is that if you're deploying Force 300 subscriber modules, and you have your standard model is a Force 316 or a Force 325, but you have some customers that are within, say, a kilometer or so of the tower. You can blend in some of these Force 300 13Ls, and depending on the blend, you can reduce your overall cost of subscriber modules by 20% or more by combining some of these low cost, shorter range subscriber modules with the long range ones. You can of course do that also with the Force 300-13, which is available globally. The Force 300 13L is not available in North America. So I want to make sure I emphasize that. It is available in the regions outside of the US and Canada. So it does not meet the FCC rules or the Industry Canada rules for deployment in the US or Canada, but it is certainly available anywhere else in the world. And we see that as complementary again to the other subscriber modules. Some of you may ask, well, we already have a Force 300-13, which is also a 13 dBi gain subscriber module. What's sort of the trade-off or benefits? The 13 is a little bit more expensive. It's about 20% premium. So this is about 20% less than the Force 313. What the Force 313 brings is the Dash 13 has a little bit narrower channel. It has that built-in spectrum analyzer, and it has a little bit higher performance processor, so it can go all the way up to that 600 megabits per second. The 13L is about 20% less in price, has a little bit wider channel, doesn't have the spectrum analyzer, but still gives that 400 or so megabits per second capacity. So if you're delivering, and really that difference is only going to exhibit itself in those customers that are doing 80 megahertz channels or say 40 megahertz channels at 256 QAM, very high modulation. So in most practical purposes, you won't see that difference in performance. So I encourage you to take a look at the Force 313L. We think it'll be quite compelling price performance wise, and I'll show you kind of how it fits into the overall portfolio here in a moment. Again, this is suitable for anywhere in our Europe, Middle East, and Africa region, our Asia Pacific regions, or our Caribbean and Latin America regions. The second new product we'll talk about today is the ePMP 3000 MicroPOP. You can see a photo of it here on the slide. This is really focused on extending coverage or injecting capacity for a WISP operator. Those are the primary applications. So I assume I have a ePMP 3000 network with a full 4-sector towers, but I have some areas that I just can't quite reach, but I want to extend, say, into a new subdivision or a village that's just outside of the range of my main tower. I can put in a MicroPOP, very low cost. It will serve, say, 1 to 2 kilometers, depending on the subscriber module gain, and allow me to bring those customers on at a very competitive price point, a very low price point. And with that 360-degree coverage, you can kind of stick that capacity or coverage where you need it at that low price point. The third application for MicroPOP is you could also use this as a sort of a backhaul distribution layer because it is 360-degree coverage. And let's say I want to put out some Wi-Fi hotspots using our CN Pilot product, or I want to put out some video surveillance cameras. I can use this MicroPOP to feed those locations as well, and kind of use it as a distribution / backhaul. A couple things to note on the MicroPOP. It's 2x2 MIMO. So remember we talked about MU-MIMO and 4x4 MU-MIMO and 2x2 MIMO. This is 2x2. If you want the MU-MIMO, you go to the full ePMP 3000. The MicroPOP gives you just the 2x2 MIMO. It has an integrated 8 dBi Omni antenna, so that no need for an external antenna, and that's it. But it does have the other features and benefits of 11AC Wave 2. That's available now. We started shipping those from our factory back in December, and it should be arriving in the hands of your channel partner distributors here in the next 2 to 3 weeks as well. So look for that, and information is available on our website. And also, you can have any questions about these new products, you can put them on the community or post them here in the webinar. We can talk about it today. I want to give you a sneak preview of a product that will be officially launching here in the next, probably we'll announce this in early April. We're doing final beta testing now, and we'll start into full production here in the next few weeks. This is a MU-MIMO dual horn antenna. So there's a couple things to kind of sort of digest or absorb with this product. It is MU-MIMO, so this means it works with an ePMP 3000. Supports that full 4x4 MU-MIMO and the 1.2 gigabit per second high capacity, but it uses horn antennas. So what that means is I have a narrower sector. I have a 60-degree sector in this case, and I have, with the horn technology, I get really small side lobes. So I really cut down automatically from the antenna pattern. I cut down on the amount of noise I'm hearing from the side as I focus that beam in the forward or the bore sight direction. So this is about a 12 dBi gain. It's the packaging, you can tell there, you can see the two horns. They're precisely aligned to give us that MU-MIMO performance. We've been testing this over multiple iterations of the mechanical design, and we have it tuned in so it really optimizes that MU-MIMO performance. It includes the mounting bracket, the cables, everything that's needed to mount this to an ePMP 3000 AP, which you see in the picture there. And then you put that entire assembly onto a pole mount. And again, really suitable for extending the network into new areas. If you want to do a narrow beam sector, you want to do a small MicroPOP, but all the new subscribers are in a 60-degree wedge or sector, I can use this as an access point. It also could be suitable for lighting up some cameras in a 60-degree beam width area. So more information on this to come, some spec sheets, antenna patterns, and everything in the coming next couple of months. But in the rest of the discussion, I kind of wanted to highlight this so you understand all the options coming down the pipeline here. I just want to highlight a product from one of our ecosystem partners. This is a true MU-MIMO Omni antenna from a partner of ours called KP Performance. So this is again, thinking in the context of the discussion here, this is MU-MIMO, so it interoperates with the ePMP 3000, does that full capacity where I can talk to 2 subscribers at the same time. It's a pretty good gain for an Omni. It's actually 13 dBi because it's really architected or designed as a couple of different opposing 180-degree sectors. The field results of this look really promising. KP Performance has inventory of this now, limited. They'll have more capacity and more product available on their shelf in March. But again, this is a very nice alternative if you're looking to put lots of capacity into an area where I need 360-degree coverage and I want that extra MU-MIMO capacity that brings. Of course, we always have the trade-offs between omnis, horns, and sectors. As you broaden the sector, now I'm hearing more things just as well as I'm covering it with my transmission. I'm hearing more things with the receiver. So it's always that constant trade-off, and you'll hear a lot of arguments about the use of omnis. They certainly have their place, but you always need to make that trade-off between what's that going to do to my noise floor, because I'm going to be transmitting now in 360 degrees, and also what is it going to mean for my noise floor for my active subscribers, and what's it going to mean for what other noise am I going to pick up because I'm now listening in 360 degrees. But it's a great option and good thing to have in the toolkit. Here's another example. This is one of our a good customer of ours. It's a company called eVergent. They're located near Chicago here, which is where our corporate headquarters are in Chicago, Illinois, in the U.S. This is an example of using horn antennas. These horns are from a company called RF Elements. They're ultra horns. And you can see what they've done here is taken from a tower, they've aligned 3 different ePMP 3000Ls in 3 narrow sectors. And they're delivering, their service plan offering is 150 megabits per second downstream and 20 megabit per second upstream. They're doing that in a 40 megahertz channel. And they're using those 3 horns side by side because you really do get that nice tight pattern with the horn technology. So thought I'd throw that out there as another example of how people are creatively using the horn antenna technology. So it gives you lots of options, and I'll kind of go through these so you kind of understand how that all fits together. But when we look at our access points, we have with the 3000 product line, we have the 3000L, which is I kind of call it the little brother of the 3000. 3000L is a 2x2 access point. It's 802.11ac wave 2. And then we have the full-blown ePMP 3000, which is the 4x4 MU-MIMO. Now, with what I've been talking about, there's 3 different antenna options for each. For the 3000L, you have the traditional 90-degree sector. There are omnis out there for 2x2 omnis that are certainly readily available. And then you can also, using the SMA connectors on the top of that antenna, you can use a RF Elements twist port adapter to go to one of their horn antennas in a 2x2 configuration. And then if you look on the right-hand side, the ePMP 3000 also has 3 options now. You have the traditional 90-degree sector, which is our 4x4 MU-MIMO sector antenna. You have that KP Performance 4x4 Omni that they've just introduced. And then you'll have the 4x4 dual horn, which we will be announcing officially in April with product being available around that end of April, May timeframe. So you have a lot of options as you put up the 3000L or the 3000 access point when you go to expand your network. And I'll kind of go through those in a little more review here in a moment. So to fill out the entire access point portfolio, I mentioned the 3000, the 3000L. We have the ePMP 2000, which has that uplink beam steering and has the dynamic filtering. That is also available in a light and a full version. We still have many customers expanding their network with the 2000 and growing their network with the 2000 and taking advantage of those features and the price point with that product. The 1000, again, customers quite happy with the deployment of the 1000 and continue to deploy that, and it continues to be a good option. It's also available in that 2.4 gigahertz spectrum as well as the 6.4 gigahertz spectrum. So you have a couple of nice options there as well. And then with the introduction of the MicroPOP, you now have a omni-directional integrated solution that runs in the AC Wave 2 technology. So that's kind of the access point portfolio. It's a lot of detail, and this slide might be useful. Be curious to get your feedback. Really 7 different ways. If I have an existing ePMP network and I've got some new customers I want to provide service to, maybe it's a new area that I want to expand my geographic region, or maybe I've have a pocket of potential customers. It's a very dense area. I want to expand to that area. There's a number of different ways to approach it. And what I kind of showed here is 7 different approaches. If you look at this table, you'll see the key parameters in how you might select a solution. You look at the antenna gain and range. So depending on how much area I'm looking to cover, am I looking to cover a full 360 degrees? Then I should really consider a 4-sector tower and plan for that 4-sector tower up front. If I'm not quite ready to go for that 4 sectors, I could always start with an omni and then split it into sectors as my number of subscribers grow. And you can look there at the maximum number of subscribers in each of these configurations. Also take a look at the headline capacity. With a full 4-sector ePMP 3000, I'm looking at almost 5 gigabits per second of capacity. Versus as I start to scale back and use the 3000L or the MicroPOP. And then, of course, the relative price of the solutions. I didn't put the actual prices here, but you can kind of see relatively the 4 sectors of ePMP 3000 with the MU-MIMO sector antennas. If we say that's sort of parity on the price of expanding the network, what does that mean for some of these other options? So I can use 4 sectors of 3000L and it's be about half of the product cost. Now the other trade-off to always consider is the labor and planning and power and the infrastructure to put in a tower. The relative cost of the hardware may be a small piece of that. So I may consider the benefits of just going ahead and putting in all 4 sectors of 3000 up front. But if I'm really tight on cash and I'm trying to conserve that so I can expand geographically very quickly, then you can also start to look at using the 3000L. You can also put up single sectors. If I'm just looking at covering a 90-degree area or a 60-degree area, you can see that cost comes down. And of course, the lowest relative price is that MicroPOP. Again, if I just want to I want to claim that I have service coverage in this particular area, this village down the road. I want to get there before my competition does. And ePMP MicroPOP becomes a very cost-effective way to say, yes, I do have coverage in your town, and I can turn your service up very quickly. And I can do that in a cost-effective way. So those are some of the questions that you could go through when you make a decision on how to expand the network. As the ePMP portfolio continues to expand, we want to give you these tools so that you can always give your best, really do the analysis and figure out what's best for your situation. Along with the access point, of course, you also have a lot of options now for the subscriber module. So if I look at the Force 300 802.11ac Wave 2 subscriber modules, you see a number of options. We have our dash 25, which is the highest gain, which will give you the best coverage area. The 16, which is a smaller form factor, but still great gain. And then a connectorized SM that allows you to connect higher gain dishes, horns, other types of devices to that connectorized SM. Middle of last year, we introduced 3 new products, the Force 319, the Force 319R, and the 13. Those are all 3 integrated panel antennas. The one I like to point out is the 19R, which is IP67 rated. It has that weatherproof RJ45 gland. It has a seal, a weather-tight seal around the edge of the enclosure. All the products are obviously rated for outdoors with IP55, but sometimes you'll get a government customer or a high-end enterprise customer who says, I'm only interested in products that meet IP67. And in that case, you can go with the Force 319R. It gives you that option. 19R also adds 5 and 10 megahertz channel support. So if you have a customer that is interested in either the 4.9 gigahertz spectrum or which has some channel spectrum limitations, or I'm looking for the absolute highest reliability, highest fade margin link, and I don't need that as much capacity. I always say that if you can get a 5 megahertz channel and that you're looking to deliver 20, 30 megabits per second, if you do that in a 5 megahertz channel, you're going to have the highest fade margin. It gives you another 3 to 6 dB of fade margin over using a 20 or 40 megahertz channel. So it's a really nice alternative if you're looking to really deliver super high reliability, 4 to 5 nines of availability. That's a great solution. And then of course, Force 313L is the product that I introduced today. Remember, that's for those folks in the US and Canada, that's not available, but anywhere else in the world, certainly a great option for a low cost approach. There's a little bit of a tabular view. I won't go in and repeat all that, but you can kind of see how that lays out from low gain to high gain and some of the professional benefits or professional enterprise grade benefits of the 19R. And then last but not least, of course, we have our whole portfolio of 11N devices. These are everything from a dish with the Force 200 to the integrated Force 180. We have connectorized, and then we have the Force 130, which is also not available in North America, but available the rest of the world. So let me, I'm going to actually pause there, and I think there was a couple questions on the hardware, and then I'll switch over to the software. A lot of questions is great. I appreciate the interactive nature here. So some questions. So the question about beam steering. So this has been a bit taken a little bit of time to get there. It is in that 4.5 software release. And the question is, will the EPM P 3000 with beam steering, is that already supported? So the hardware is the exact same beam steer antenna as you've used with the EPM P 2000. So you can actually go ahead and mount that with 3000. The 4.5 software release, which is in beta right now, supports that beam steer antenna. So if you're interested in getting a look at the performance of that, you can get access to the beta software. Otherwise, I'm insured by the software team that we're probably about three weeks out. I'd maybe extended about 4 weeks to be sure of when that 4.5 release will be available. Next one, does the MicroPOP have the hardware dynamic filtering? It does not. So the products that have that are it's really the EPM P 2000 and the EPM P 3000. So if you want that dynamic filtering with the hardware filtering, that comes with the sort of those flagship access points, the 2000 and the 3000. The question about there's a question about, will the dual horn and Omni be in Link Planner? for the ePMP 3000. So they will be all the products we talked about will be in Link Planner. The first ones to go in will of course be the MicroPOP and the 413L because those are shipping. I expect those will be in a Link Planner release here in the next 30 to 60 days. The dual horn, we're already working to integrate that as well as the Omni. So those will eventually be in there. I think you're more like 90 days out for those being in Link Planner. So I hope that answers the question there. There's a question about the MicroPOP. The question is how does it compare to an ePMP 3000 with an Omni antenna, a 3000L with an Omni antenna? So from a performance standpoint, it'll be quite similar to, you could buy a 3000L and with the external SMA connectors, cable it to an Omni and compare that to the MicroPOP performance. From an air interface and processing performance, they'll be quite similar. From a packaging, of course, the MicroPOP is a little more convenient. The 3000L would give you a benefit of, you could put a little bit higher gain Omni on there, and which would be a bigger size physically. So, but from a processing performance and air interface performance, it would be very similar. There's a question about that MU-MIMO Omni from KP Performance and whether Cambium will be selling it. At this point, it's only available from KP Performance. I know that they have distribution in the United States, and they're working on some distribution in Europe as well. But primarily that's available in some distributors that are here in the US, which you may be able to reach out to, or I'll take a note of that and see if I can get them to post on our community where that might be available from different channels. And if any of our current channel partners outside of the US are carrying KP Performance, it'd be a great option to post on the community, because that would give you a chance to support the customers in Europe and other parts of the world. Okay, there's another question about Link Planner. So yes, that's coming soon. The question about the ePMP 3000L and does it have a subscriber count limit? So there is a limit of 64 subscribers on a 3000L. When the very first version of firmware had a smaller limit, but we opened that up to 64 with the most recent 4.4, I think even 4.3 software increased that to 64 subscribers. So that compares to the ePMP 3000 and the ePMP 2000, which support up to 120 subscribers. Okay. Important question. I think I mentioned it, but maybe if I forgot to mention it, there's a question about, does the MicroPOP support synchronization? It does not. So with the MicroPOP, we decided that not to use synchronization. That will keep the price down. And also the typical application is that the MicroPOP would be mounted at a relatively lower elevation than a full-blown sector. So think short range, low elevation, and so that's a good point, though. It does not include synchronization. There's a question about about the availability of this webinar. So we'll be able to get this posted on the community. I know the recording will be, and I believe we'll also put a PDF version of up there as well. There's a question about beam steering. So there's a question about beam steering and whether it would be recommended for somebody using an ePMP 3000 in a CCTV application. You know, uplink beam steering is really, it really, what that helps with is interference in that uplink direction. So you may get some benefit there, because the way the beam steer antenna works is it forms beams to the SM as it speaks to it. So you may get some benefit in a high noise environment. The 3000 has a 11AC Wave 2 air interface, which also has some better coding rates and some other benefits that you may not see as big of a boost as you did with 11N, but you would see some boost. So your mileage will definitely vary depending on the noise floor, the location of those SMs, how they are relative to each other, and how much benefit you get from that beam steering. Question about why is the Force 313L and the Force 130 not available in North America? Really, at this point in time, it's really a reason for of cost. The FCC out-of-band emissions requirements, and Industry Canada follows closely to this. It requires extra hardware filters to be put onto the board. So it's an actual physical filter that's required on those products. So that is absolutely the difference today. If we were to bring a product like that into North America, it would have to be priced higher, which would start to put it closer to the price point of the Force 316, or no, Force 313 in the case of 11AC Wave 2, and the Force 180 with the 11N. So it just starts to pinch too close to those price points as the cost of that filter goes up. So it's just regulatory requirements are different in those regions. Okay, and then, well, there's a question about promotions, which keep an eye out on our website. We run promotions periodically for different reasons in different situations. So keep an eye out on our website and announcements from your channel partners on different promotions. I'll talk about one, I don't know if you consider a promotion, but I'll talk about one program that we offer here in a moment. In fact, let me jump to that now because that's a good question, and then I'll come back to the software. One of the programs that we do run is we call Bring a Friend. And we ran this most of last year. We introduced, I think, this in May of last year. And what this is if you're a current WISP and you're operating a ePMP or PMP 450 network, and you refer a WISP that's not currently a Cambium Networks WISP, if you refer that WISP to Cambium and they buy their first set of gear, then you as a current WISP of Cambium can get a free access point. So you get some free equipment. So we had quite a few WISPs take advantage of this last year by basically introducing one of their, call it friendly competitors down the road to Cambium. Cambium, they bought some gear from Cambium, and then in turn they got a free access point. So besides being, I guess somebody say, why would I do that? Well, a couple of reasons. One is maybe you just want to be friendly to the people down the road, but also if they start to use the ePMP 3000 with synchronization and they set the radios up with similar parameters, you can start to achieve the benefit of all around lower noise floors as those other WISPs start to use Cambium and synchronization. You get some benefit there as well. So not only do you get a free piece of hardware, but you also get perhaps to enjoy the benefits of some lower noise floor. So you can go on this URL, and I think there's more information as well on the community about this if you just search for Bring a Friend, and you can get more information about this, and pretty straightforward, and that's available globally as a program. Let me just wrap up by talking briefly about the software that's coming. Our last release was 4.4.3, and that's what you'll find on the support website. That is will be updated to 4.5, which is in beta right now. 4.5 will come to full release, as I mentioned, in, say, let's call it 3 to 4 weeks. So in early March. Still like to try to get it done by February, but to be safe, let's say early March. We may see something come in earlier than that. Uh, some of the key benefits, we talked about the beam steer antenna. You'll see that 10 megahertz channel support on the 19R. We'll also support the smaller frame size on the ePMP 3000. So again, for some latency sensitive applications, or for wanting to synchronize with a 450 network, for example, that becomes feasible with a 2.5 millisecond frame. You'll see that Omni support in the GUI, so you can put in that Omni and it will give you that information, as well as the dual horn, which will be coming later in second quarter. We're also introducing multi-language support. I think this will be interesting. The first two languages supported are the Spanish language and the Turkish language. So when you go in to manage the radios, we have the ability to add these new languages. So if you're interested in English, Spanish, or Turkish is not your native language, and you'd like to see your language in the GUI, let us know, and we're looking at sort of prioritizing the next few. I think Polish is one of the next candidates, and we look to expand that further. So that'll be a first. I think that might be the first product in Cambium's portfolio to support that. So it's kind of a test for us. Then we'll have a dot release. This may blend together that 4.5.2 release, which will optimize the 4313L. And then in April, we'll have 4.6, which will bring a few things. It will bring a flexible frame support, which we had in the 2000. Now that'll come available in the 3000. SNMB V3 on the 19R. And then this automatic channel selection, which some customers may find quite compelling. It means when the access point comes up on the air, it scans the network and determines what's the best channel to operate in. So some customers prefer to have very precise channel plans and know exactly where all their APs are operating. This would let the access point go find its best channel and operate. So it kind of gives you the other option to choose when you're building out the network. So that's kind of the short term next two releases. There's many more coming, and we also would, I'd put the request out there if you have features that you'd be interested in seeing on the ePMP 3000, or they're a must-have to expand your network or to maintain your network. Let me know. You can either send me an email, bruce.collins@cambiumnetworks.com, or post it up on the community and see if you get some of your peers and other WISPs to comment as well, because the more people that request that feature, it makes it easier to get it prioritized amongst all the other requests. So that is the material for today. Let me see if there's more questions. There's a thumbs up from one of our customers in Turkey. You're welcome, and I hope this works out for you. I'm really looking forward to your feedback on that. And then the question about, will ACS be more intelligent than random selection? And that is the intent, and that's the purpose of that feature, is to use the built-in spectrum analyzer, scan all the available channels, and then pick the one that has the lowest noise floor. Now, noise floor changes all the time, and some customers prefer to have their channel plan fixed so that they can do a sort of an AB channel reuse across multiple towers, and that would give you the ability to do either or. But it's certainly a step up from random, which would just pick the next available channel. So with that, I appreciate all the questions. I really like it when there's questions and interaction, and look forward to talking to you on the next webinar down the road. As always, these are recorded and will be available on the community, and please reach out via the community if you would like to continue the conversation. All right, thanks everybody.